Usually, when we think about a really serious life-threatening illness, we kind of expect it to look the part.
Right. Yeah, it should be obvious.
Exactly. There's this visual language to sickness that we just all instinctively understand. Like, a fever leaves you flushed and sweating, or a broken bone gets a neon cast.
Oh, totally. A severe flu puts you in bed for a solid week, and everyone knows you're sick.
Right. We have this deep-seated expectation that the outside will always match the inside.
And our brains are actually wired to look for those visual cues,
Mm.
to assess danger or health.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It functions as an evolutionary shorthand, really.
Yeah.
We just like our diagnoses to be visible, to be measurable, and just undeniably obvious to anyone walking into the room.
But what happens when that evolutionary shorthand completely fails you?
Well, that's the scary part.
Right. What happens when you are looking at someone who is fighting this absolutely brutal, exhausting, round-the-clock battle, and to the outside world, and maybe even to their own family, they look completely, perfectly
This is
fine?
a massive blind spot.
It really is. And that is the paradox we are looking at today. So for you, the listener joining us right now, we are taking a deep dive into the reality of bulimia nervosa.
It's such an important topic.
It is. And to do this, we are using a really fascinating case study. It's a comprehensive brief from Coping and Healing Counseling, or CHC.
Oh, right, the group in Georgia.
Yes, exactly. They are a statewide telehealth practice operating down in Georgia, and their clinical framework offers just an incredibly clear lens into how we understand and ultimately treat this disorder.
It is a vital framework to examine because, well, we are dealing with an illness that thrives almost entirely on misdirection.
Wow, misdirection.
Yeah, it basically uses that human tendency to rely on visual cues completely against us.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because the very first thing we have to dismantle here is the overarching pop culture narrative.
Oh, for sure. The media gets this so wrong.
Completely wrong.
Mm.
There is this deeply ingrained vanity myth surrounding eating disorders and, bulimia in particular.
Yes, the cultural depiction almost always shows eating disorders as this dramatic, highly visible weight loss.
Right, usually framed as this extreme, misguided pursuit of a magazine cover aesthetic or something. But the clinical reality from the CHC document completely upends that.
It totally does.
Because bulimia is actually one of the most hidden disorders, precisely because sufferers can be at a perfectly normal weight.
And crucially, underneath all that behavior, we are not looking at vanity at all.
Right.
We're looking at shame, we're looking at severe anxiety, and we're looking at a brain caught in a loop.
What's fascinating here is... Wait, sorry, I'm stealing your line there.
Ha, go for it. But seriously, what's fascinating here is the specific insidious danger of that normal weight presentation.
Yeah, tell me more about that.
Well, if you think about it from a social perspective, when someone becomes severely underweight, it immediately triggers those external alarm bells.
Sure, people notice.
Exactly. Friends intervene.
Yeah.
Parents ask uncomfortable questions. Doctors notice during routine checkups,
The whole community safety net basically activates.
Right. But when someone maintains a weight that society deems normal, that external alarm system just never goes off. The illness gets to hide entirely in plain sight.
Man. And because the root of the disorder is already shame and anxiety, I imagine that lack of intervention isn't felt as a relief, right?
Oh, not at all.
It has to feel incredibly isolating for the person going through it.
It deepens the internal isolation exponentially.
Yeah.
I mean, the sufferer feels completely unseen.
Wow.
They are fighting a daily war that nobody else recognizes, which, only amplifies the very anxiety that is driving the behavior in the first place. You are left completely alone with your symptoms.
I want to focus on that phrase you used a moment ago, a brain caught in a loop, because it pushes back so well against this idea that an eating disorder is just a lifestyle choice or a diet gone wrong.
Yeah, it's so much more mechanical than that.
Right. When I was looking at the clinical descriptions in the brief, it actually made me think of a severe software glitch on a computer.
Oh, I like that analogy.
When a program gets overwhelmed, like maybe the processor is handling way too much anxious data, and instead of just shutting down gracefully, the internal escape key just forces the whole system to restart.
That is a highly accurate way to visualize the psychological mechanism at play there.
Yeah.
Yes, because the anxiety literally overwhelms the cognitive load.
It just loops. Crash, restart. You aren't choosing to do it. The system is just overwriting your inputs because it's caught in this closed circuit of panic.
Exactly. It proves we were talking about an uncontrollable cycle, not some superficial vanity project.
So true.
And We really have to look at what exactly constitutes that loop in a physical sense.
Right, because the scale isn't going to tell us anything.
Precisely. Because the bathroom scale won't reveal the disorder, we have to look for the specific behavioral and physical markers that define it.
And the CHC brief maps these out really clearly.
They do. The cycle itself is very rigidly defined in clinical terms. It basically always begins with episodes of binge eating.
Which are characterized by a profound, terrifying feeling of being completely out of control, right?
Yes, which again ties directly back to that system overload you mentioned.
The glitch.
Right, the anxiety spikes, the system crashes, and the binge is the manifestation of losing control of the wheel.
Okay, and then comes the second half of the loop.
Right. The behavior is meant to, quote, undo the binge. This is where the clinical data points to vomiting, the use of laxatives, prolonged fasting, or compulsive exercise.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. I was looking at that concept of trying to undo the eating.
Yeah, the purging aspect.
If we just look at this through the lens of basic physics and human biology, you cannot ever truly undo a meal.
No, biology doesn't work like that.
Time only moves in one direction. The moment food is consumed, the body begins digestion. Chemical processes start, insulin spikes, energy is absorbed into the bloodstream.
It's an instant cascade.
Exactly. You literally cannot rewind the biological clock. So the behaviors, whether it's the compulsive exercise, the fasting, the purging, they aren't actually biological solutions to the food.
Oh, no.
They are entirely driven by psychological panic. It is just a desperate response to brutal self-criticism about shape and weight.
That is a vital distinction to make. The attempt to undo is not a rational biological equation.
Right.
It is a profound emotional compulsion.
Right.
And while the person might feel they are successfully managing the cycle through intense secrecy, hiding the food, hiding the behaviors, the human body operates on an entirely different ledger.
The mind might keep a secret, but the body absolutely does not.
The body keeps the score, always.
Wow, yeah.
While the person relies on hiding their behaviors, their physical biology reveals the truth through involuntary signs.
And the source material listed some really specific ones, didn't it?
It did. The clinical warning signs include frequent trips to the bathroom right after eating,
Yeah.
severe dental erosion, and noticeably swollen cheeks.
Let's actually pause on those physical signs for a second, because I think a lot of people, myself included, might not understand the mechanics there.
Fair, it's not commonly talked about.
If someone is hiding this well, why do the cheeks swell? Why do the teeth erode? We are talking about the physical toll of stomach acid.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. The body is simply not designed to have highly corrosive stomach acid frequently passing through the mouth and esophagus.
That makes sense.
So over time, you see the rapid chemical breakdown of dental enamel.
Ouch. And the cheeks.
The swollen cheeks are a physiological response from the salivary glands, specifically the parotid glands located near the jaw.
Oh, I've heard of those.
Right. When they are subjected to the constant irritation, overstimulation, and just the severe dehydration associated with purging, they become inflamed and physically enlarged.
It's just devastating. I mean, the mind is trying with all its might to keep this incredibly dark secret, but the physical body is literally eroding from the inside out, waving these biological red flags.
It is a tragic disconnect.
But it requires the people around you to know what those red flags actually mean. Otherwise, they just think you have a toothache or a swollen gland from a cold.
Which is exactly why understanding the realities of this disorder is so critical for the listener.
Right.
You have to know what to look for when the standard indicator, the weight loss, is completely absent from the picture.
So once that physical and psychological loop is actually identified, whether by the person suffering or a loved one who spots the red flags, we have to pivot to the crucial question.
Right, how do you escape it?
Yes, because from the outside, and certainly from the inside, it sounds like an airtight prison. But the clinical framework from our Georgia case study makes a very deliberate pivot toward evidence-based hope.
It does. It explicitly notes that while diagnoses must come from a licensed clinician, there is a very real, documented path forward.
That's reassuring.
The primary treatments with strong evidence for success are enhanced cognitive behavioral therapy, known as CBTE, and interpersonal therapy.
Okay, I have to admit, I struggle with this part a bit. I really want to push back on the mechanics of that.
Go for it. What's the sticking point?
Well, we just established that this is a deeply ingrained brain loop. It is a physical, compulsive cycle that results in inflamed glands, eroded teeth, and severe biological distress.
Right.
How does talking, or interpersonal therapy, actually fix physical compulsion? To use my earlier analogy, isn't that like trying to carefully rewire a house while the electricity is still actively surging through it?
That's a great way to put it.
It just seems incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to just talk your way out of a physical loop.
That is exactly the right question to ask, and your analogy holds up perfectly. It is incredibly difficult to rewire a live circuit.
Okay, so how do they do it?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to remember the foundation of the disorder.
Right.
The root of bulimia is not the food, and it is not vanity. The root causes are shame, trauma, and severe anxiety.
Got it. The food is really just the symptom of the anxiety.
Exactly. So if the root causes are interpersonal trauma and deep-seated shame, then therapies focusing on interpersonal connections and cognitive restructuring aren't just talking.
I
They
see.
are actively attacking the structural foundation of the disorder.
Oh, you're going after the power source, not just changing the light bulbs.
That's it. CBTE is not just about discussing your week.
Right, it's not casual chatting.
No, it is a highly structured process designed to identify and dismantle the very specific brutal self-criticism and the rigid rules the person has created around food and shape.
Okay, so breaking the rules of the loop.
Exactly. A therapist works with the patient to catch the anxious thought, that system error, before it triggers the physical behavior.
That makes a lot of sense. And what about the interpersonal therapy?
Interpersonal therapy, on the other hand, addresses the relational anxieties and social stressors that trigger the need to binge in the first place.
Taking away the spark.
By addressing the shame, you are literally turning off the surge of anxiety so the system doesn't have to hit that internal restart button.
Wow.
And this leads to perhaps the most profound concept in the clinical data, which is that people genuinely recover.
That concept stands out so strongly against the usual landscape of mental health discussions.
It really does.
People genuinely recover. It shifts the whole narrative.
Absolutely.
So often with things that resemble addiction models, we talk about chronic management. You are told you will spend the rest of your life in recovery. But this framework offers true fundamental healing. The loop can actually be broken.
It removes the life sentence.
Yeah,
But, and this is a big but, there is a massive logistical hurdle here.
I figured there was a catch.
Highly effective, evidence-based therapies are utterly useless if the people suffering in secret cannot access them.
Which brings us directly to the delivery system. If the problem is access, how do we solve it?
Right.
This is where Coping and Healing Counseling, CHC, serves as such a brilliant case study for the logistics of hope. They have built a model designed specifically to overcome both the geographical and the emotional barriers to treatment across an entire state.
They really have. CHC is a 100% telehealth, iPay compliant practice, and they serve all 159 counties in Georgia.
Think about the sheer scale of that for a second.
That's massive.
Georgia is a huge, geographically diverse state. You have major metropolitan hubs like Atlanta, where, sure, you can find a specialist on every corner.
Right, access is easy there.
But you also have incredibly remote rural areas where mental health resources might be a 2-hour drive away.
Exactly.
What this telehealth model has done is essentially place a top-tier, specialized mental health clinic in every single living room in the state.
And the staffing model they use is just crucial for this to work. They utilize over 15 licensed therapists, comprising LCSWs, LPCs, and LMFTs.
Okay, for anyone who isn't steeped in the mental health alphabet soup, what do those acronyms actually mean in practice, and why do we need all of them?
Well, it is about building a comprehensive ecosystem of care.
Okay.
So LCSWs are licensed clinical social workers.
Right.
They're trained to look at the patient's environment, their social systems, and resources.
The big picture stuff.
Right. Then LPCs are licensed professional counselors who focus heavily on mental health scaffolding, emotional regulation, and cognitive therapies like CBT.
Got it. And the LMFTs.
Those are licensed marriage and family therapists who view the individual struggles through the lens of family dynamics and relational systems.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense.
When you are treating a complex disorder like bulimia, you really need that diverse clinical toolkit. But perhaps the most important detail in their staffing model is that they emphasize a diverse, culturally competent team.
Yes, I really wanted to dig into that. Why is cultural competence specifically so vital for an illness like bulimia?
Well, think about the core driver of the illness, which is shame.
Right.
If you are harboring a deeply secretive illness rooted in shame, the barrier to dropping your defenses is just monumental. You have to feel fundamentally understood by the person sitting across from you.
That makes sense.
Food and body image carry wildly different meanings across different cultures. Like, in some cultures, refusing a second helping of food is seen as a direct insult to the matriarch of the family.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
In others, body size is tied directly to status or maternal health. Cultural competence means the therapist inherently understands the nuance of your specific background.
That makes total sense. Because if you have to spend the first 20 minutes of a therapy session explaining your culture's entire relationship with food before you can even begin to explain your pain, you are just exhausted.
Totally drained.
You're probably going to keep your guard up and stay right in the loop.
Precisely. The patient must feel a shorthand of understanding to feel safe enough to open up. And beyond the cultural aspect, the 100% telehealth model itself addresses the logistical shame of the disorder.
Honestly, for an illness defined by secrecy, telehealth feels like the absolute perfect antidote.
It really is.
I mean, think about the traditional therapy model. If you are already crippled by the shame of an eating disorder, just the act of going to therapy is a gauntlet.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to drive to a clinic, park your car, walk in, and sit in a public waiting room under fluorescent lights, absolutely terrified you might see a coworker or a neighbor.
The exposure is terrifying.
That waiting room is a massive barrier to entry. But telehealth completely removes the gauntlet. You can get specialized, eating disorder-informed help from the safety of your own bedroom, just sitting on your own bed.
It lowers the emotional barrier to entry to almost zero.
Incredible.
Furthermore, a clinic like CHC doesn't just treat the eating disorder in total isolation.
What else do they cover?
Their specialties include anxiety, depression, trauma, PTSD, grief, relationships, and general stress.
Oh, wow.
As we've established, treating bulimia is rarely just about treating the food behaviors. You have to treat the trauma, the PTSD, or the severe stress that is fueling the cycle.
Right, the power source.
Exactly. They are equipped to handle the entire ecosystem of the patient's mental health, offering individual, couples, family, and teen therapy for ages 13 and up.
It's a truly holistic approach to the whole family unit, which is often necessary because those family dynamics are usually completely intertwined with the anxiety anyway.
Very often, yes.
But you know, even with an amazing telehealth network that reaches rural areas, and even with culturally competent therapists and all the right specialties, there is usually one final massive wall for anyone seeking help.
The financial barrier.
Always the financial barrier. Healthcare is notoriously expensive. But when we look at the financial accessibility of the CHC model, it is a total paradigm shift.
It really is.
For patients on Medicaid, the copay is $0. $0.
Which is huge.
And for private insurances, including Aetna, Cigna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, and Humana, the copay ranges from just $10 to $40 a session. So what does this all mean?
This raises an important question, actually. When you look at those numbers, it forces us to completely reevaluate how we view access to life-saving care.
Yeah.
When you lower the financial barrier to $0 for the most vulnerable populations, or just the cost of a few cups of coffee for those on private insurance, you fundamentally change the landscape of community health outcomes.
It means that specialized eating disorder treatment is no longer a luxury reserved only for the wealthy, or for people who can afford tens of thousands of dollars for out-of-pocket residential facilities.
Exactly. And the downstream effect of that affordability is massive.
How so?
Well, when treatment is this accessible, people don't have to wait until they are in a life-threatening, highly visible medical crisis to justify seeking help.
They don't have to hit rock bottom.
Right. They can intervene early. They can work with a licensed clinician to break the psychological loop way before the physical damage to the teeth, the esophagus, and the glands becomes irreversible.
It shifts the entire medical approach from being reactive to being proactive. And for anyone listening who might recognize these hidden signs in themselves or, in someone they love, the contact information for the specific resource is really straightforward.
Please share it.
You can reach CHC at 404-832-0102 or visit their website at cheesetherapy.com. You can also email them directly at support@cheesetherapy.com.
It is a profound resource and honestly an incredible blueprint for how telehealth can modernize care.
It really is. So to recap the journey we've been on today, Fennell, the listener, we've explored the reality that bulimia nervosa is not a vanity project.
Not at all.
It is a hidden, exhausting loop fueled by deep shame, trauma, and anxiety. It hides behind the mask of a normal weight, disguising the intense physical toll it takes on the body's internal systems.
Yes.
But if we know the real biological warning signs and we recognize the power of evidence-based treatments like CBTE, the picture really
It
changes.
gets brighter.
It does. Add in the existence of accessible, affordable telehealth networks that completely bypass the waiting room and those huge financial barriers, and true, genuine recovery is highly attainable. Again, as a resource, CHC can be reached at 404-832-0102 or checktherapy.com.
As we close today, I just want to leave you with one final thought to ponder.
Go for it.
We started this discussion by examining the paradox of a disease that thrives on secrecy and illness that relies on hiding in plain sight.
Right.
For the last decade, the privacy of the screen our computers, our phones, has routinely been blamed for isolating us, disconnecting us, and essentially making us sicker.
That's the usual narrative, yeah.
But if an illness like bulimia requires a dark, hidden space to survive, how might the rise of 100% private telehealth fundamentally change the way we detect and treat all hidden struggles in the future?
Oh, wow.
Could the privacy of the screen, the very thing often blamed for our isolation, actually be the tool that finally brings our most secretive, shame-filled battles out into the light?
Wow. The very thing we use to hide becomes the sanctuary that sets us free. That is absolutely something to think about. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.